You have been lied to about the Texas dream. For the last 3 years, everyone from your neighbor to your favorite influencer has been screaming that you need to pack up and move to the Lone Star State for cheap land and freedom. But I decided to dig into the actual data that the real estate agents are conveniently forgetting to show you. I spent weeks analyzing crime statistics from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, property tax records, and the latest market value reports from Redfin and Zillow. What I found was not a dream, but a financial nightmare waiting to destroy your savings. We are talking about cities where home values have plummeted by nearly 40% in a single year. Towns where your chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime is double the national average. And neighborhoods where the property taxes are so high, they effectively cancel out the benefit of having no state income tax. If you are thinking about buying a home in Texas in 2025, you are walking into a trap. I have compiled the list of the 10 absolute worst places to buy property in this state based on hard data, not feelings. Most people skip the research and end up regretting their move within 6 months, but that is not going to be you. We are counting down to the number 1 worst city in Texas that practically guarantees you will lose money. You need to see the numbers for yourself before you sign any contract. So please subscribe to the channel to protect your wallet and let us get into the list. Number 10. Crowell. I am starting this investigation in a small town that looks innocent enough on a map, but the financial data tells a horrific story. Crowell might seem like a quiet escape, but buying a home here is arguably the fastest way to burn your equity. I looked at the recent sales data and found that home prices here have crashed by a staggering 39.3% since late 2022. Imagine putting $100,000 into a property only to watch $40,000 of that value vanish into thin air in just 12 months. That is not a market correction, that is a market collapse. The median home price is hovering around $63,000, which sounds cheap, but there is a reason nobody wants to buy here. The average days on market has skyrocketed, meaning if you buy here, you're essentially stuck because selling is nearly impossible. I checked the population trends and found that this town has shrunk by nearly 2% in just the last few years. When people leave, businesses close, and your property value hits zero. To make matters worse, the poverty rate in this area is significantly higher than the Texas average, sitting at over 19%. This lack of economic opportunity drives the property demand down even further. Investing here isn't buying a home, it is buying a liability that you will struggle to get rid of for years. Do not let the low entry price fool you into thinking this is a bargain. Number 9. Beaumont. Next on my list is a city that sits near the Louisiana border, and honestly, the humidity is the least of your problems. Beaumont presents a double threat to your wallet: high crime and economic stagnation. According to data from Neighborhood Scout, Beaumont is safer than only 4% of United States cities. That is a terrifying statistic for anyone looking to raise a family or protect their property investment. The violent crime rate here is one of the highest in the state, with roughly 11 violent crimes per 1,000 residents. But the danger isn't the only reason I am warning you to stay away. I dug into the employment numbers and found that the unemployment rate in Beaumont consistently hovers above the national average, often exceeding 6%. A weak local economy means there's zero pressure driving home values up. Then there is the issue of property taxes, which hits homeowners here incredibly hard. The average property tax rate in Jefferson County is around 2.1%, which is significantly higher than the national average. You are paying premium taxes for a city with crumbling infrastructure and severe safety issues. I also looked at the environmental risk factors, and the data is alarming. Beaumont has been hit by multiple major hurricanes and floods in the last decade, causing insurance premiums to skyrocket. Some insurers are even pulling out of the area entirely, leaving homeowners vulnerable. Buying here means you are fighting rising crime, a weak job market, and Mother Nature herself. Number 8. El Paso. Many people defend El Paso because of its rich culture and history, but as an investor, I only care about the return on investment. And the return here is being eaten alive by one specific factor: property taxes. El Paso has one of the highest effective property tax rates in the entire country, let alone Texas. I analyzed the tax records and found rates hovering around 2.6% to 3% in some areas. To put that into perspective, on a $300,000 home, you are paying nearly $9,000 a year just in taxes. Over 30 years, you could pay more in taxes than the original value of the house itself. That destroys your ability to build long-term wealth. While home prices here are lower than in Austin or Dallas, that tax burden makes the monthly payment deceptively high. The income data is another red flag that caught my attention during my research. The median household income in El Paso is significantly lower than the Texas median, sitting at around $55,000. This limits the buying power of the local population, which puts a hard ceiling on how much your home can appreciate. I also noticed that the inventory of homes for sale has been creeping up, signaling that demand is softening. The appreciation rate in El Paso has historically lagged behind the rest of the state, barely keeping up with inflation in some years. You are paying luxury-level taxes for mediocre growth, and that is a mathematical equation that results in a loss. Number 7. Austin. I know this one is going to make a lot of people angry, but the numbers do not lie. Austin was the darling of the pandemic housing boom, but now it is the poster child for a bursting bubble. I tracked the price corrections, and Austin is leading the nation in price declines. From the peak in 2022, median home prices have fallen by more than 14.8% in some zip codes. That is hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity wiped out for people who bought at the top. I found data showing that inventory levels have surged to an 8-year high, meaning there is a massive glut of homes sitting on the market. Sellers are desperate, and 31% of active listings have had a price cut in the last month alone. The tech exodus is real. Major companies are slowing hiring, and the remote work boom that fueled this city is cooling off. Another shocking stat I uncovered is the affordability index. Despite the price drops, Austin remains unaffordable for the average Texan, with a median home price still hovering around $550,000. Investors who bought rental properties here are bleeding cash because rents have dropped by roughly 6% year over year. You are catching a falling knife if you buy in Austin right now. The days of double-digit appreciation are over, replaced by a market that is desperately trying to find a floor. If you value your hard-earned money, you should probably click the like button and subscribe to the channel right now because I am saving you from making a 6-figure mistake. Number 6. San Antonio. Moving down the list, we land in a city that is famous for the Alamo, but it should be famous for its deteriorating safety metrics. San Antonio has slowly crept up the list of the most dangerous cities in the United States. I reviewed the latest FBI uniform crime reporting data, and the trends are disturbing. Property crime here is rampant, with a rate of nearly 52 crimes per 1,000 residents. This means you have a 1 in 19 chance of being a victim of property crime if you live here. That includes burglary, theft, and motor vehicle theft, which drives up your insurance costs and stress levels. Beyond the crime, the housing market metrics are flashing warning signs. While not as volatile as Austin, San Antonio has seen a 9% increase in active listings year over year. Homes are sitting on the market for an average of 60 days, which is a significant slowdown compared to 2 years ago. I also looked at the poverty rate and found it is stubbornly high at around 17%. A high poverty rate correlates strongly with lower property value appreciation over the long term. Infrastructure is another major complaint I saw in resident surveys, with massive traffic congestion due to poor city planning. The property taxes in Bexar County are also among the highest in the state, averaging around 2.3%. You are paying high taxes for a city that struggles to keep its residents safe and its roads clear. It is a market that looks stable on the surface, but is rotting from the inside due to structural economic issues. Number 5. Houston. Houston is massive, but the problems facing homeowners here are just as big. I want to focus on a piece of data that most real estate agents will hide from you until the closing day: flood risk. I analyzed flood maps and insurance claims data, and the reality is that a huge portion of Houston is one bad storm away from being underwater. Since Hurricane Harvey, insurance premiums in Houston have skyrocketed, with some policies increasing by over 50% in a single year. But water is not the only thing drowning home values here. The violent crime rate in Houston is 219% higher than the national average. I found reports indicating there are over 25,000 violent crimes reported annually in the city. That is a staggering number that directly impacts property demand in huge swaths of the metro area. The traffic congestion is legendary, costing the average commuter nearly 75 hours per year stuck in gridlock. From an investment standpoint, the supply is flooding the market. There are currently over 24,000 active listings in the Houston metro area. This oversupply suppresses price growth, meaning your asset is not appreciating as fast as inflation. Property taxes are also a killer here, with rates often exceeding 2.31%. Combining the risk of total property loss from floods with high crime and high taxes makes Houston a gamble I would never take. The sheer size of the city means there are pockets of good areas, but the macro data for the city as a whole is overwhelmingly negative. Number 4. Laredo. We are getting into the territory of cities that simply lack the quality of life to justify buying a home. Laredo sits right on the border, and while it plays a huge role in trade, it is a difficult place to build wealth through real estate. I looked at the U.S. News & World Report Quality of Life rankings, and Laredo ranked 491 out of 500 cities. That is in the bottom 10 for the entire United States. One of the biggest drivers of this low ranking is the extreme heat and lack of green spaces. Data shows that Laredo experiences over 100 days of triple-digit heat annually. This drives up utility costs significantly, eating into your monthly budget. The median home value is low, around $210,000, but so is the median income. The poverty rate in Laredo is shocking, sitting at nearly 22%. I also found that the educational attainment levels are well below the state average. Only about 19% of residents hold a bachelor degree or higher. Real estate appreciation is driven by high-income earners moving into an area, and Laredo simply does not have that demographic influx. The market here is incredibly stagnant. Homes take an average of 75 days to sell, which is an eternity in the real estate world. If you buy here, you are locking your money into a market with almost zero upward momentum. It is an isolated economy that does not offer the diversification needed for a safe property investment. Number 3. Corpus Christi. This coastal city seems like a bargain for beach lovers, but the data exposes a harsh reality. Corpus Christi is consistently ranked as one of the least desirable places to live based on health and economic factors. I found that it ranked 492 out of 500 for quality of life. The biggest threat to your investment here is wind and water. Insurance data shows that windstorm insurance is mandatory and exorbitantly expensive due to the constant threat of hurricanes. I spoke with insurance brokers who say premiums here can be 3 times higher than inland cities. That monthly cost destroys your cash flow if you are an investor or increases your debt-to-income ratio if you are a resident. The crime rate is also a major deterrent. Corpus Christi has a violent crime rate that is nearly double the Texas average. I analyzed the local economy, and it is heavily dependent on the oil and gas industry. This creates a boom and bust cycle for housing prices that is incredibly volatile. When oil prices drop, home values in Corpus Christi tend to crash along with them. The infrastructure is aging poorly, with road conditions ranked among the worst in the state. You might get a view of the water, but you are paying for it with high risk, high insurance, and an unstable local economy. Before we move to the top 2 worst cities, drop a comment below if you have ever lived in any of these places and share your experience. Number 2, Brownsville. We are now at the runner-up for the worst place to buy a home in Texas, and the economic data here is heartbreaking. Brownsville is located at the southernmost tip of Texas, and unfortunately, it is also at the bottom of almost every economic metric. I reviewed the Census Bureau data and found that Brownsville has one of the highest poverty rates in the nation. Nearly 31% of the population lives below the poverty line. Buying a home in a market with that level of poverty is extremely risky because the pool of future buyers is tiny. Who are you going to sell your house to in 5 years if a third of the population is struggling just to buy food? The median household income is roughly $45,000, which is drastically lower than the national median. This suppresses home values and makes significant appreciation almost mathematically impossible. I also looked at the health metrics, which affect the long-term viability of a community. Brownsville has incredibly high rates of uninsured residents and poor health outcomes. The city ranked 496 out of 500 for overall quality of life. While SpaceX has brought some attention to the area, it has not been enough to lift the broader housing market out of the mud. Crime is also a lingering issue. Although not as high as Houston, the property crime rate is still concerning given the low property values. You are buying into a market that is structurally broken. It is cheap for a reason, and that reason is a complete lack of economic velocity. Number 1. Far. We have arrived at the number 1 city in Texas you should absolutely avoid buying a home in. Far. If you thought the other cities were bad, the data for Far is catastrophic. I cross-referenced multiple quality of life studies, and Far ranked number 498. It is statistically the second worst place to live in the entire country, just behind a city in California. The economic depression here is severe. The percentage of the population without health insurance is among the highest in the nation, hovering around 30%. This indicates a severe lack of high-quality employment with benefits. I analyzed the housing market data and found that while homes are incredibly cheap, they are stagnant assets. The appreciation rate over the last decade has been negligible when adjusted for inflation. You are essentially parking your money in a dead zone. The poverty rate is over 28%, creating a cycle that keeps property values depressed. Infrastructure is lacking, entertainment options are minimal, and the heat is oppressive. There is virtually no institutional money flowing into this residential market. Big investors know to stay away, and you should too. Buying a home in Far is not an investment. It is a guarantee that your net worth will stagnate while the rest of the country moves forward. The data is clear. High poverty, low quality of life, and zero growth potential make this the most dangerous real estate market in Texas. Texas is a massive state with plenty of opportunity, but you have to know where to look and, more importantly, where to avoid. Do not let a low listing price trick you into buying a money pit in one of these 10 cities. I want you to build wealth, not lose it to taxes, crime, and depreciation. If you found this data helpful, please help the channel out by hitting the like button, sharing this video with anyone thinking about moving to Texas, and dropping a comment on which city shocked you the most. And make sure to subscribe, because in the next video I am going to expose the 10 best hidden gem cities in Texas where you can actually still make money. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next investigation.